Hello, my 7th grade champions, and welcome to today's session. So, today we are going over your chapter 3 questions. This is part 1. So, in part 1, we go over the summary and analysis of the chapter, and then in part 2, we will answer some questions. So, let's get to it. Before we get started with the summary of the chapter itself, it's important to know a little bit about the author. The author of this particular story is Leo Tolstoy. Now, Leo Tolstoy is a very famous Russian author, and some of you must know about his really famous novel called War and Peace. It is a really fat book and it's very, very famous. It's a classic. Now, Leo Tolstoy lived from 1828 to 1910, so a long time ago. He was Russian. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize for Literature a number of times, but unfortunately never won it. Well, he's still a very well-respected author, and today we are going over a retelling of one of his stories. So this story wasn't written exactly like this. It has been retold for your chapter. So, what happens in your story? Now, a king is plagued or bothered by 3 particular questions. These questions are: what is the right time to do something? Which are the people that he should listen to or keep close to him? And what is the most important thing for him to do? Now, these are questions that we all might think about, but since he was a king, it was very important for him to find the answers to these 3 philosophical questions. And so he sent his messengers out to all the wise men in his kingdom to get answers to these questions. Now, for the first question, what is the right time to do something? All the wise men gave different answers. They said that, you really cannot predict what the time is, so you might need a magician to tell you what the right time to do something is. You can make a timetable for yourself, a strict timetable, and follow it, so you'll know what the right time to do everything is. For the second question, again, who should you listen to? Some wise men said you should listen to your counselors, people in your council. Other wise men said that you should perhaps listen to your soldiers, you should listen to magicians, like mentioned before. And then for the third question, again, they all gave different answers. Some said that the most important thing for you to do is science. Others said that the most important thing for you to do is religious worship. Some said fighting is the most important. And like that, the people that you should keep close to you, some said doctors, some said priests, some said magicians. So a bunch of different answers, and the king was not satisfied with any of these answers, so he decided that I am going to go to a hermit to seek answers for my questions. Now, who's a hermit? A hermit is a person who lives in solitude. That means he lives alone and lives a very simple life. We can say, जैसे साधु संत बोलते हैं, that is a hermit. So the king went in normal clothes because the hermit only met normal people, and when he went to the hermit, he saw that the hermit was digging. And the hermit was very old and weak. So, as soon as the king noticed that he was digging something, he offered to help. So, he asked the hermit his 3 questions and then started helping the hermit dig. The hermit did not give answers to the question, so the king just kept digging, and he dug one bed, then he dug another bed. A bed is a patch of land where you can sow seeds to plant different things. So he, after digging 2 beds, the king again said, why don't you give me the answers now, and if you don't want to give me the answers, then just let me know and I'll return back home. At this point, it had already gotten a little dark. Sunset had happened. King and the hermit saw that a man was running towards them, and that man had his hands to his stomach, and there was blood oozing out of there. They realized that he was a wounded man. As soon as the man got there, the king started helping the man. He saw that there was a lot of blood, so he put a kerchief on it. He redressed the wound, matlab usme dobara patti ki, and when the man asked for water, he got fresh water for the man, and the hermit and the king took the man inside. Now, helping the man and digging all day long made the king very tired, so he ended up sleeping in the hermit's hut. The next morning, he woke up and found this strange man next to him. That man looked at the king and said, "Forgive me." Now, it took a second for the king to realize where he is and what is going on. And then as soon as he realized, he said, why should I forgive you? What have you done? And the man said that you might not recognize me, but I know who you are. I am an enemy of yours. So you killed my brother and took away my property by force, seized my property. And ever since that, I've been trying to take my revenge. So as soon as I found out that you are going to this hermit's hut, I decided to hide so that I could attack you on your way back to the palace. But because you didn't return to the palace, I came out of my hiding place where your bodyguard found me and he attacked me. I ended up bleeding, wounded, and if you hadn't helped me, I would have died. So I was trying to take your life, but you ended up saving my life. Now to this, the king said, and then the man said that because you saved my life, I am forever loyal to you. I am your faithful servant from this day on. Now the king said, okay, and the king earned a loyal, faithful servant, and they were enemies, so they were enemies no longer. So there was no threat on the king ki there is somebody out there who will or can attack me. After all of this was done, the king went out and saw that the hermit was sowing seeds in the beds that they dug the previous day. And before leaving, the king decided that I'll ask him one more time if he can answer my 3 questions. What are the 3 questions? The right time to do something, which people should he listen to, and what is the most important thing to do. Now to this, the hermit said, your questions have already been answered. Now the king got a little confused and said, how? And the hermit explained that when you were digging the beds, because you took pity on me, that was the right time for you to be doing that. That was the most important thing for you to be doing. And because you were helping me, I was the most important person at that point. And the most important thing for you to do was to help me. Because you did all of these things at that time, you didn't go back to your palace. Because if you had gone back to your palace, that man would have attacked you. And then after that, when that wounded man came running, the right thing, the most important thing for you to do at that time was to help that man. The most important person was that wounded man, and the most important thing for you to do was to help him. Because you did all of those things, that man turned from your enemy to your most loyal and faithful servant. The hermit explained that the right time to do something, the most important time to do something, and the most important thing to do, the people that he should be listening to or helping, all of it depends on the present moment, whatever is happening now. Because now is the only time where we have any power to act. You cannot go to the past and do something. You cannot go to the future and do something. The only time when you can act is now. The most important person for you to help, the most important person for you at that time is the person you're with, because you don't know what will happen next to that person or to yourself, whether you'll meet again. You don't know how life is going to turn out. So that is the most important person, the person you should keep close to you or listen to. And the most important thing for you to do is to be good and kind, because that is why we are all here on this earth, to be nice human beings and good and kind to each other. That brings us to the end of this story. I hope that made you understand the story a little bit better, and it's a very nice learning that we've gotten from this, to live in the present moment, to act in the present moment, to be nice and kind to the people around us. All right, stay tuned for part 2 of this, where we answer a few questions.